this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Welcome to today's edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show podcast.
Welcome, everybody. Thursday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show kicks off right now. Thanks for being here with us. A couple of big stories right off the top we're going to spend some time on today. One, the pullback from the operation in Minneapolis, the enhanced ICE deployment there. We have some sound bites from Tom Homan. We have updates from the administration on this one, but they are claiming the mission has been completed and therefore this is on schedule. Is that the way this will play more broadly? We will discuss. Also, a horrific shooting by a transgender man claiming to be a woman at a secondary school outside of Vancouver in Canada. And the Canadian media in particular, although not only Canadian media, are pretending it was a woman. We're going to talk about this. There is a mass hysteria, a mass delusion around this transgender issue, and we are not going to back down 1 inch from the truth. It's very important. So we will get into that, talk a bit about Minnesota. Also, some excellent guests today. We have Secretary of Education Linda McMahon with us in the next hour. We will talk to her about a new prize for, well, it has to do with the American founding, has to do with 250 years of America, which we're celebrating this summer, which is very exciting. And we also have our friend Jesse Kelly, who will deign to spend a few minutes of his time with us. And I'm sure we'll have pithy commentary on America's political and cultural scene, as well as Clay Travis's mustache, which is now turning into kind of a gruff beard / mustache situation. You're going sort of like for the Sam Elliott after a couple of weeks out on the trail look now. Is that where we are?
I don't really know. I'm kind of in a tough spot with the mustache. If I go clean shaven, then the mustache is completely a commitment here at this point.
I wouldn't know who you were. Like if you showed up clean shaven, if that mustache and the beard were gone, I would think you were an imposter and I wouldn't know what to do.
So I don't know. I mean, it's the most trusted mustache in news now. I'm not even sure who my competition would be. Geraldo maybe back in the day, but I think Geraldo retired. So I don't know. I feel an obligation to the American public, and I don't know exactly how to land the plane, so to speak. Although with this mustache, I'd probably be great at landing planes.
I think similar to Churchill, played by Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour, you should let the people weigh in on this, and you should just take it to a poll and just see what the Clay Travis people of America, because I think Team Mustache will win. I think if you put it to a fair democratic process, you become a mustache guy instead of a beard guy.
You know what's funny is a lot of 20-year-old guys have mustaches. I was watching the U.S. men's hockey team as they were playing and getting ready for their games and everything else. Almost everybody on the team has a mustache now. So my 15-year-old was like, that's a good, stash. I mean, I think the mustache has surged in the 18 to 28-year-old contingent out there. So I'm definitely way older than them, but there are a lot of them. I noticed it out at the Super Bowl. So we will see.
We shall see. All right, Minnesota. Let's talk about this. The White House is saying that this is essentially mission accomplished, and that's why there's a change here. This is Tom Homan this morning, who has taken the lead on the messaging and the operations in Minneapolis. Here he is saying that this is coming to a conclusion in that state. Play one.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week and will continue to the next week. We have a lot of work to do across this country to remove public safety risk who shouldn't even be in this country, and to deliver on President Trump's promise for strong border security and mass deportation. Law enforcement officers drawing down from this surge operation will either return to the duty stations or be assigned elsewhere to achieve just that.
Clay, I worry that even if this is true, meaning that they feel like they've gotten better cooperation and they have, by the way, a quick note here, because some of you, I looked very briefly, this is a little bit of a digression, I looked very briefly at a map, and when I said outside of Vancouver where the shooting was, sorry, it's 700 miles from Vancouver. My Canada geography is not great. That was the closest city that I knew of.
I saw the map too, and I thought it was fairly close to Vancouver as well.
Yeah,
so
Canada's a very big place, so that was not. That's kind of a whiff on my part. It's way up in British Columbia. Anyway, we'll come back to that, but I just before everyone starts filling up the inbox, but that's nowhere near Vancouver. It's the closest city that I knew, but that's because I don't know Canada very well. All right, back to Minneapolis. Tom Homan, he says, Clay, how does this play? Because the worry is that the maniacs, the purple-haired, shrieking street harpies are going to say, we won, now let's go on to round two.
I think that's 100% a valid concern. Now, here's what I would say in general. It seems as if Minneapolis and Minnesota both back down in terms of not turning over violent criminals when they are arrested, people who are violating the law, that essentially they are now notifying ICE and allowing ICE to take possession, take them into custody when they are being released from Minneapolis and Minnesota area prisons. That's what I saw. Keith Ellison, and I don't know if we have the audio, but he was effectively acknowledging that. So here's what I think happened. I think both sides said this is not beneficial. Tom Homan went to Minneapolis, had a good conversation. He said, we will draw back the number of ICE agents on the streets if you guys will start to allow us to arrest violent criminals that come into your possession instead of releasing them back into the streets. There was a quiet handshake agreement on this, and that is really what has gone on behind the scenes. I also think that if you look at the population of Minneapolis relative to other states, it doesn't have as many illegal immigrants. And so the surge was only going to be necessary for a limited amount of time because you're going to go get a huge percentage of the people there. So I think this is effectively both sides saying, hey, we've gotten what we consider to be a good result from a compromise perspective. What you and I said, and this would be my concern going forward, is, well, the obstruction tactics put in place in Minneapolis are now going to be utilized in other cities where there are ICE agents out in the streets, and we'll see whether that ends up being the case or not. The final thing that I would point to is Tim Walz's political career is over. We have a governor's race and a Senate race that is taking place in the fall in 2026 in Minnesota. And ultimately, Minnesota voters on some level are going to come out and tell us what they think about the direction of their state. The fact that Tim Walz, who a little over a year ago was a heartbeat away potentially from the presidency, now has his political career over, would be a sign that much of the immigration-related aspects of Minnesota politics are not breaking in favor of the Democrat Party. And I actually saw a poll out yesterday, I believe it was, showing Michelle Tafoya in the Senate race only down by 5 or 6 points against the presumptive Democrat nominee. So again, governor's race and a Senate race in Minnesota. We will find out how this all plays out in about 10 months. That will be the first verdict on this. I think the governor, Klobuchar, is likely to win and comfortably win. But in the Senate race, which is, I would argue, actually way more consequential on a national scale, I think Michelle Tafoya is going to be able to make a real run there. So that to me will be the question going forward.
We shall see. Certainly would be great to start to turn the political tide a bit in Minnesota. Who would have thought Minneapolis would be both at the heart of BLM 2.0 and then the sort of front line of the resistance against enforcement of the law when it comes to immigration. So it would not have been on the top 5 cities I would have thought of as the hotbeds of left-wing radicalism. Apparently, and I have a family friend who just moved down here from Minneapolis to South Florida. Apparently, everyone who lives there knows, oh no, in city limits, they're nuts. So this is not a surprise to them.
I think it's actually a scary take because, again, like I was doing my reading this morning, and the number of people that never said a word about ICE for the entire time that Barack Obama was in office and have suddenly been mobilized to believe that ICE is the modern day SS, that they're Nazis, probably ties in quite well with your book, but Manufacturing Delusion, which will be out in 5 days, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct, sir. Yes.
But the degree to which Democrats are able to mobilize people who didn't care about anything at all for decades to suddenly decide that this is the most imminent, dangerous threat that we face in America today really should scare all of us, because they're going to move on to the next new thing. But they really have, on the left wing in this country, managed to mobilize people to fight back against things that have been considered totally standard operating procedure for decades under Democrat presidents, as if it is an existential threat to the nation. And that scares me because, you know, you had a guy in this Alex Preddy who basically everybody stopped talking about as soon as that video of him spitting on ICE agents and kicking the taillight out. Do you notice that, Buck? Everybody was like, oh, my God, this guy is unbelievable hero, nurse. He was totally innocent. He never had missed. And then the video came out, and I hear almost nothing about Alex Preddy now. But how did a guy like Alex Preddy get radicalized to such an extent? I was reading, they had a story in the New York Times about his family. I guess the mom and dad spoke to media in the last day or so. How did this guy go from, they said he grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, mom and dad, sister, normal family of four, and he just completely lost his mind and decided that his role in life was to be an obstacle to ICE? I don't understand it at all. It's downright scary. We'll talk about that. We'll take some of your calls. A lot of people mad at Buck over the marijuana discussion, and, you know, again, continue to direct all your vitriol in Buck's direction. But in all seriousness, we got a bunch of talkbacks on that. We'll play some of that for you, and we'll open up phone lines. Also, Linda McMahon, the education secretary, she's got an announcement for us. She is going to join us. Some of you will know her as the wife of Vince McMahon, legendary WWE founder. We will discuss much with Linda McMahon, and then our buddy Jesse Kelly going to be on with us at 2:30. Many of you hear him on many of the same premier network stations in the evening in the time slot that Buck Sexton used to have. So we will talk with Jesse and with Linda McMahon as well going forward, but it is now college basketball season. Right after the Super Bowl, I immediately pivot and I say, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit of a fever for March Madness, which is coming very, very soon. Last night, I kicked my feet up and watched college basketball games. That is after I'm really beating my 11-year-old. We have a new 6-foot basketball goal downstairs, mini basketball hoop. And, I'm not really the kind of guy to brag, but if Prize Picks were setting odds, I'm crushing him every day, multiple horse games. Dad is the champion. Prize Picks would have to set unbelievable odds for you to bet on my 5th grader. Not that I want to throw him under the bus, but I crush him every night. And if Prize Picks were setting odds on this, you would take more on championships that are going to be won by Dad. And if you are a college basketball fan, if you are an NBA fan, if you are a basketball fan, heck, if you're like me and you're ready for pitchers and catchers to report, because not very far till Major League Baseball is going to be back, it's super fun, super easy to play. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 or more athletes in your favored sports. And when you play $5, you get $50 deposited in your account. PrizePicks.com, code CLAY. That is PrizePicks.com, code CLAY. PrizePicks.com, code CLAY. Both Buck and I love American history. We are huge history nerds. We regularly talk about it A ton, and we are joined by someone else who is a major history aficionado. She is Linda McMahon, Secretary of Education of the United States, and we are now celebrating America 250. And we've been talking about America 250 quite a bit on the program, even though we're early into the year. Secretary McMahon, we appreciate you coming on right now. You are announcing a Presidential 1776 Award. Historical literacy is a major issue among young people in the United States today. Tell us what this competition will do and what you're hoping it will create.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, and I appreciate the fact that you are both such historical buffs and put such emphasis on it, because I can tell you it's not been emphasized much in our country, as we see, unfortunately, through our scores, across the country when kids are tested on their civics or historical knowledge. And so this is part of the President's initiative, this 1776 award, in conjunction with the celebration, our 250th birthday for the country. And so to generate interest, he wanted to create this civics award. So the registration is open right now for students who want to enroll. And what they do is they're going to sign up to take the world's impossible test. They have 90 minutes online to answer 4,000 questions. That's called the impossible test.
Wow.
And I would think it would be. But it's, ever how many they get, not how many they answer, but how many they answer correctly, of course, will determine the winner in each round. So it's a 3-round competition. And the top winners are going to receive, the very top winner will receive a scholarship of $150,000, and second place is $75,000, and third place is $25,000. And so, it's conducted a little bit like a national spelling bee. There'll be, the first round of competition, and then we'll have, regionals and districts, and then 3 winners will come to Washington, D.C. In June of this year, and we'll have the final competition. And then the awards will be made. So it's created a lot of excitement. So we're very happy. We're sending notices out, to teachers, to organizations, to schools, to principals, to everyone, and getting it online so that as many people can be notified that it's a fun thing to do with a great, potential reward. So they can go to presidential1776award.org.
Have you thought about giving media this test? Because when you're describing this, I actually think this would be real. I would like to take it. I know I'm not eligible, but 4,000 questions, 90 minutes. I think it would be really fun if you got some media out there that cover the White House and beyond. I would take this. I think it would be interesting to see what kind of scores people might post.
Well, Travis, I think you should just launch your own initiative to do that.
This is not a bad idea. Buck, would you take this test? Would you sit down 90-minute American History 1776 test? I think I would take it.
It would be you and me versus Don Lemon and
I would put you and I on the 1776 test as a team up against any duo in media in the country. I think we would win. Do you think anybody could beat us that actually has a daily show? Or
my normal humility, Secretary McMahon, disappears on this one. Clay and I would smoke any of the libs out there.
I think so.
Yeah, it would be the Clay and Buck Civics Challenge. I like this.
This would be fun. I don't think anybody would actually take us on, but I will take it. Secretary McMahon, we will reach out for you and see if we can set up a time to take this and see if we can smoke everybody out there.
I also want to ask you, as you're running a very large agency of the government, what are you doing with education these days? It's a big thing. It's massive. It's huge. Secretary, how are you going to fix education in America under the Trump administration?
Well, the president's executive order is to return education to the states and take bureaucracy that exists in Washington out of our education process. So in other words, instead of all of the money that is appropriated by Congress flowing through the Department of Education and then to the states, which does create more regulation, more red tape, et cetera. It is my goal to move the different agencies or departments, if you will, within the Department of Education to other agencies of the United States government, which is where they existed before there was a department. If you guys, and I know you guys know this fact, but the Department of Education was not established until 1980, and since that time, we've spent $3 trillion on education, just throwing more money at the problem, and watched our national scores continue to decline. So we're clearly doing something wrong, and the president believes, and I agree with him, that the best education is that's closest to the child, that it is controlled by the state superintendents and district superintendents and teachers, and most importantly, parents who have then insight into what is being taught to their children. So the dismantling, if you will, of the department and moving it to other agencies will make it more efficient. I do believe that there'll be greater satisfaction with what's going to be happening with education once this job is completed.
One of the things that I think is most interesting and maybe extraordinary when it comes to educational accomplishment is what the state of Mississippi has done. I know you probably have studied it quite a lot. I don't think most of the audience out there has become aware of it. But basically, they went back to committing, and you can maybe explain better than me, but to old school style teaching, and abandon many of the quote unquote newfangled methods of instruction for children. And as a result, the kids in Mississippi, many of whom are drastically underprivileged, relative to socioeconomic status in the rest of the country, have seen their results skyrocket. And now other southern states in particular are copying them. What are they doing? Are you encouraged by what you've seen there? And is this a good example of the laboratory of state education giving us things that could work, for instance, in California where the results are not good?
You're exactly right in that this does prove the point about states being laboratories, because this is innovation that occurred at the state level, not at the federal level. This was not mandated by the federal government. And what the state of Mississippi did, and it's actually called the Mississippi Miracle, they adopted the science of reading. And it is exactly what you said. It was going back to the way reading was originally taught. Now, of course, there are some updates to the process, et cetera, but it's based on phonics. It's based on sounding out words and sounding out combinations of letters so that kids can learn to read. They're not just doing sight reading of whole words or concepts, which is what's really been, I think, the downfall of our literacy numbers throughout the country. And if children cannot read by the time they finish the third grade, then they are never going to be able to be successful because they'll just get farther and farther behind. So the science of reading, as it has been adopted, has proven to be so successful. And sometimes this is done in connection with what are called classical schools that are doing exactly what you just, Clay, I think it was you, what you were describing is going back to sort of the way schools were taught, before. Now, that's working in many communities. Some communities, have different kinds of schools. There are charter schools, magnet schools, there are religious schools, there's homeschooling, and micro schools. And what I'm doing is touring all 50 states. I've been to about 30 now, and I have visited all of these many kinds of schools. I've even been to the Alpha School in Austin, Texas, which has its first 2 hours of instruction in the morning through AI, which is really like an individual tutoring session, and then the rest of the day are spent on applying the applications of what they learn. So my goal at the end of this term, or as we are turning education back over to the states, is to develop a toolkit of what has worked in most of these states, and to just hand it over to the different states and say, look, these are the things that I've seen that work. This is how they work. This is who's doing it. Please be in contact with them if you so choose. And you know what? Governors and state superintendents, they're pretty competitive. No governor likes to see another state get ahead of them, in terms of the success, especially, with kids in education. So I think we're going to have a good impact. The beneficiaries of what we're doing will be our children and schools, in general. And I'm very excited about what we're doing.
Secretary of Education Linda McMahon with us now. And Ms. Secretary, when we saw the Minneapolis ICE protests, there was all this school closures, administrative and teaching staff going out to protest. Why is it that this just happens and there seems to be some acceptance that the school system is like the protest shock troops of the far left in this country?
Well, I can tell you, if you just look at those protests from a common sense standpoint, and I as a parent, if I were there, now I can't stand in the shoes of the parents who were there, but I would think, why is my child not in school that day? And if we look at what the scores are, in Minnesota, they're not sterling at all, if you will. I would want my children to be in school learning how to read, how to do math, how to solve their science problems, and not out on the street in the bitter cold protesting and objecting to something that they might not even fully understand. I think it's outrageous. And if that were to continue, I can tell you that there would be investigation by us, and those schools could be, in jeopardy of having lost federal funding.
Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, one more time. I'm going to try, maybe you can have somebody on your team reach out. I would like to take this test and see how I would do, but we encourage so many people out there with kids and grandkids that are committed to history and want to learn more on the 250th anniversary of this country to compete. That competition has an incredible award, as you just told us. How can they do that one more time?
Well, the enrollment period is now through February 21st, so about a couple of more weeks. You can go online at presidential1776award.org to register.
Awesome.
And then shortly thereafter, they'll be taking the test, and it will be a 90-minute test to see how many 4,000 questions they can answer correctly. And these are just historical fact questions. This is, if anybody has any concerns that they're partisan politics, they are not at all. This is just based on facts and history.
Awesome. Secretary of Education McMahon, appreciate you making the time for us today. Thank you so much.
Lots of fun. Thanks for your desire to participate. We're going to make this happen, Clay.
I'm in. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
My man's, he's going to swim from Alcatraz Island. He's going to take the impossible history tests. We got to get Clay jumping out of planes for our YouTube channel soon.
I haven't taken a history test, I don't think, Buck, since the AP U.S. history test back in 1997. So we'll see whether the old brain can retain any of the knowledge from the test back in the day.
Brighten the winter doldrums by ordering something special for your home. Your family's going to love it. It's Cozy Earth's Cuddle Blanket. It's one of the softest, most luxurious items that Cozy Earth makes, and that's saying something. You'll find these cuddle blankets online at CozyEarth.com in a variety of colors. This purchase is totally risk-free. You get a 100-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty because they want you totally satisfied. Go online to CozyEarth.com, use my name, Buck, and get a 20% discount on their cuddle blanket. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here. One more time, that's Cozy Earth, C-O-Z-Y, CozyEarth.com is the website. Use promo code Buck. Get your discount on purchase.
Couple of other different things that are continuing. We've talked about the surge in Minnesota being dialed down. We have talked about we haven't even mentioned this. Maybe we can get into it. Thanks to Linda McMahon, by the way. We're going to talk to our buddy Jesse Kelly at the top of the third hour. Grand jury has refused to indict Democrats. We've talked about this in Washington, D.C., and that is the advantage that Democrats have. They basically have a kangaroo court in Washington, D.C., which is 95% Democrats, and they regularly get better treatment than Republicans will. But this story I thought deserved way more attention because, unfortunately, it is continuing the acceleration of extremely violent acts by people who are trans. We had Minneapolis, the church that was shot up by a trans individual. We had Nashville, the religious school that was shot up by a trans individual. And we now have had, unfortunately, in the British Columbia province in Canada, 10 different people, including the shooter himself, who committed suicide. I think it was a him, right, that identified as a girl. And nobody will really have the conversation. Wait a minute, what's going on here? To what extent are all of these drugs that these people are being pumped full of? The rate of trans violence is off the charts. That doesn't even include the shooting of Charlie Kirk, which allegedly happened by someone who was dating a trans person and was offended by Charlie Kirk's perspective on trans people. That trial is scheduled to occur this year at some point. But listen to how even the media is covering this. Cut 8, a Canadian journalist says that that the shooter was a him, right? Am I correct in this, Buck? This is a dude that identified as a girl that was trying to flip to become a girl, and he ID'd as a girl. This is a boy, and was clearly mentally unstable. But this is what it sounded like when they were trying to figure out, hey, what do we even call this person? Cut 8.
Officer Renina Dea from Global News. Could you please expand a little bit on the suspect? Was he known to police? Were there any red flags regarding his mental health?
So a suspect is identified as an 18-year-old female by the name of Jessie. We have a history of police attendance at the family residence. Some of those calls were related to mental health issues.
Okay, if you had trouble hearing that a little bit, the actual journalist says that this is a guy, which is biologically accurate, who did the shooting, and then the police, the deputy commissioner there of the police department says, actually, no, the shooter was female. So he corrects the reporter who, to her credit, I think it was a woman speaking, was actually correct that this was a male shooter.
It's a guy. It's a guy who just committed a mass murder, and it's a man. It's 18-year-old. Okay, so this is a man, a young man, who decided that he had girl pronouns, which is wrong, not true. It's a guy, and went in and shot a whole bunch of people. I mean, he killed. Killed a 12-year-old boy, a 13-year-old boy, a 39-year-old teacher. Shot all these people. At what point do we, as a society, have a conversation about the extreme mental illness that is behind transgenderism and the fact that it should be and has always been treated as a mental illness that deserves and necessitates support and mental health intervention instead of people placating and playing along? That's one part of this. The other part of this is you are in a real dystopian situation when the cops are lying to you about who does a mass murder. That Royal Canadian Mounted Police guy, I know Canada, God, it's become so left-wing. It's become so crazy over there in so many ways. That guy saying that this is a woman, a female is actually what he says. He's lying.
Yes.
He's just lying to everybody.
Lying.
I mean, this would be like saying, hold on a second. The guy who did this, if a white kid went into a school and shot up a bunch of kids and you stopped during the press conference and said, hold on a second. He was black. Everybody would say you're a crazy person. No, it was a white kid, and vice versa. I'm just saying, if you describe the race of the assailant clearly incorrectly, people would think like there's something wrong with you. This was not a woman. This was a man. This was a guy with a penis who went in, who was crazy, who was clearly very mentally ill, But on the internet and on TikTok and whatever, there's all these people telling me, oh, you're actually a girl. Oh, and then, by the way, all the people that don't affirm that you're a girl, they want to erase you. They're committing a genocide against you. They're the bad people.
It's crazy.
That crap leads to violence, everybody. Enough is enough.
And by the way, if you're out there and you're saying, okay, maybe this poor police officer's just fumbling around, he doesn't know exactly what he's doing. No, he says they're respecting the preferred gender pronouns of the school shooting suspect. Before we play this cut, this is cut 9. He's a mass murderer. Should we respect him in any way for anything? My argument would be no. He's trash. He is evil. And we have allowed him to be mentally deranged and coddled in some way, his mental derangement. And again, I don't think it's coincidental. Minneapolis, Nashville, now in Canada, mass shootings going on because not only have we coddled these people and told them, oh, whatever gender you are, you're actually correct. But worse than that, to Buck's point, we have convinced them that anybody who says that's not true is committing a genocide against you. So you have mentally unstable people that are convinced that if they aren't affirmed in their gender, that's a genocide being committed, and so they go out and start trying to kill people. Unfortunately, this is becoming far too common. Cut 9.
We're not hiding it. In fact, you're the first media to ask the question. I will say this. We identified the suspect as they chose to be identified in public and in social media. I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female both socially and publicly.
This is crazy. I mean, this is delusional.
I mean, imagine if after, like one of bin Laden's Al-Qaeda guys went in and blew up a plane or something. Imagine the FBI saying, hold on a second, everybody. He preferred to be called Sheikh Osama. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that you need to be weighing in with the wishes of the mass murderer right now. Like, I don't think that that's something that the police should be so concerned with here. It just shows you the grip of psychosis. Manufacturing delusion, everybody. Here's the book. There's a whole chapter on this. It's called Menticide. It goes back to World War II. It goes back to breaking people down in authoritarian regimes. Part of it is get them to say that we don't know what a penis is. We don't know what a vagina is. We can't tell anything. We're all so dumb. Please get your copy of the book. It comes out on Tuesday. If you buy it today, it'll be there waiting for you on Tuesday when it comes out. This is a whole chapter in the book, though, and I had to write about this. And people told me, by the way, writing about this transgender stuff, Clay, I mean, I hate to bring it up. Look what happened to Charlie. We're talking about this stuff. I mean, you're facing down the most insane part of the left these days. And in some ways, the most violent and the most, the craziest. And, you got to do it.
Just think
There's
about
a reason
this.
why they're all in on this.
If I started to identify myself as a black female, it would be racist of me to call myself black because we saw that happen with Rachel Dolezal, the white chick pretending that she was black as the head of the NAACP back in Spokane, Washington. It's super racist for me to identify as black. But you would have to accept the fact that I'm female? This is Democrat Party orthodoxy right now. If I said, hey, I've decided from now on I want to be a black female, the Democrat Party would have to say, oh, my God, that's super racist. But it's great that you're now a woman. Which do you think is a crazier transition? Which do you think is a more substantial leap? Me changing my race. People find out, by the way, all the time that they're not the race they thought they were. Or me changing my gender. Everybody out there knows it's gender. I have more in common as a dude with black, white, Asian, and Hispanic guys than I do with women. But the Democrat Party orthodoxy is they would have to say, congratulations, you're now a woman, but simultaneously they'd have to tell me it's racist for me to claim to be a black woman. It's bonkers. And Buck, this I think does matter. People out there say, well, why does this matter? Let's pretend this person was actually on the loose and they were asking for help. Do you describe him as a dude, which he is? Or do you say, we're going to accept his preferred pronouns, this is a woman on the loose? I mean, all of this is crazy. And the fact that you would be concerned with what someone who committed a mass shooting thought about you or not respecting their pronouns enough, what we should be having a conversation about is this. To what extent do all of these drugs that these trans people are loaded with, Buck, to what extent does that accelerate their mental degradation and make them more prone to violence? That's a real question we should be asking. We talked about this for 12 and 13-year-olds. The data reflects that their bones don't develop fully when they start getting these trans treatments. That's a big deal, not to mention sterilization. But what does it do to adults? Does it make trans people more prone to violence? I don't think it's crazy to say the trans community is tiny, and we now have 3 mass shootings basically in the last year and a half that have been propagated by trans people who were on drugs and or being treated for trans-related issues. Shouldn't we be asking, what is the impact of the drugs that we're pumping into their system, and does that make them more prone to violence? To say nothing of the fact that certainly telling them that people who disrespect your preferred pronouns are committing genocide against you, that certainly accelerates, I would think, the justification of violence.
Also, we just need to figure out whether as a society, we really have a choice, Clay. We can have these things happen, or you can have people more readily, involuntarily committed for a period of time. To be clear, I'm not saying that all trans people should be committed, but this individual, I think they should get mental health assistance. But a lot of people, veterans come back with PTSD, they get mental health assistance. Mental health assistance is something that shouldn't be stigmatized and people should have ready access to. But this person, when the police are coming to your home, and by the way, this trans shooter killed his mom and brother as well, or sister, killed the mother and sibling as well before he went to the school. So killed his own family, this guy. This 18-year-old killed his own family members and then went to the school. So this is somebody, the cops started going to the house, all the signs were there. I bet if you looked up the laws in British Columbia about, or, for Canadian federal law or whatever they call it, getting this person to be put into a psychiatric facility until there was a real effort to bring them into reality, I bet it's almost impossible. It's basically impossible in America.
Buck, we talked about the filters and how they tried to make Alex Preddy look better in MSNBC.
Of course.
Canadian media are using AI filters to try to make the shooter look more female.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, this is utterly insane. Utterly insane on all levels.
I wouldn't get into it, but with a very prominent podcaster, I got into an argument over dinner once. He said, but you can't tell the difference with a trans. And I was like, no, man, I can always tell the difference. We're not doing this thing where I can't tell. Can you tell the difference in a photo necessarily? No. In person, when they're like, hi, yeah, I can tell the difference. Okay. I've always been able to tell the difference. It's getting harder, but I can tell the difference in person, in video or in photos. That's a different thing. All right, look, hard turn here. Talking about things that are really good for you and that'll really help you, and supplements that will make your daily regimen easier for you to adhere to and get more out of every day. That's where Chalk comes in. I love Chalk. I've got a subscription to Chalk Daily and Chad Mode. The first helps me have all the necessary supplementation to get the most out of my day. And the second, gives me that energy boost to get through a workout. For the guys in this audience, Chalk's Male Vitality Stack helps replenish testosterone levels, which naturally decrease as we age. It's a supplement bundle, and just like all Chalk products, the ingredients are all natural. You don't have to worry about what you're putting in your body. Chalk also offers a female vitality stack, because men and women are different, formulated for the ladies. Learn more about both at chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. When you subscribe with my name, Buck, as your promo code, Chalk will pack a free $99 bag of Chalk Lit Powder with your first delivery. That's CHOQ.com. Use my name, Buck, as your promo code. Jesse Kelly joins us. He is the host of the Jesse Kelly Show, syndicated by Premier Networks in the evenings. He has a new book out, Jesse's Little Red Book, which we'll be talking about here in a second. And he is America's tallest radio host, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. So, Jesse, welcome.
Well, I'm just happy I can finally bring some talent to the airwaves here, Buck. And I do have to ask before we get going, what did you do to your hair, Buck?
I love that my mustache avoided all attacks. I pointed this out. Did you get a new take on this? Because Buck has been getting the same haircut as like 20-year-olds in Miami now. So this is
Jesse.
a major shift.
I go to a barber shop with some wonderful Cuban Americans who speak very limited English, and you are seeing the end product of that here. But I will have you know that Clay's teenage sons, in shock, referred to this haircut as cool.
Yes, but have you seen Clay's mustache? I mean, with all due respect, are we going with Clay's brood's opinion here?
How about you opening with no hair, coming after Buck for a haircut? Like, that is just an unprecedented attack from you. That's like Iran coming into the negotiations with Trump and threatening
Jesse,
to obliterate Washington, D.C.
Clay wanted to read an email that you posted from one of your fans on air on this show, and I was like, no, Jesse's our friend. That's not, you know what, Clay? Go ahead. I'm not standing in the way anymore.
Let's start off because you want to throw stones. Let me make sure I grabbed it here because I was laughing during the commercial break. This is an email. Jesse is on many of these same stations in the evening. The subject is gay boy. Which, by the way, I'm sure got flagged because you and Mayor Pete are emailing so frequently with each other. Jesse, I think that's what you call each other, right? Jesse, you say you had an ice water at the Super Bowl party. How many fruit wedges did you throw in that water? Was any cucumber involved? People are concerned your gayness is bleeding over into the NFL. Just go watch the halftime show. Why are you so gay? It's okay to use my name, Aaron. There's a lot of Super Bowl talk. Why? Aaron wants to know, why are you so gay? Would you like to apologize to America for drinking an ice water at the Super Bowl party?
No, I would not like to apologize. And let me explain. It was not my party. And I didn't care about the Super Bowl. I haven't watched the NFL in years because of all the Black Lives Matter stuff. I went from being an NFL super fan to I never watch it. I went to a neighborhood party because my neighbor who barbecues and he smokes all these delicious meats. He had smoked chicken wings. But anyway, the fellas and ladies were getting together. Of course, the ladies stayed inside because they're too annoying. And the guys went out back and we ate meats. I did not go for the game. I didn't care about the game. I left at halftime. After I made everybody turn off the Bad Bunny halftime show and turn on the other one, then I made it halfway through that, and I left at halftime. I was there to hang with the fellas for a little bit and have some meats. The Super Bowl is on a Sunday. I am 44, not 24 years old anymore. I try to limit my alcoholic beverages, period, let alone on a Sunday night when I have to work the next day. So I had ice water, and I had to tell everyone there I had ice water, and I had to catch crap from them, and then I had to catch crap from my listeners, and now I'm getting it from you guys. What's wrong with ice water? I like ice water.
Well,
I mean, it's fine.
We heard rumors that there were cucumber wedges in the ice water. To be fair.
I know. I just remember you coming after me for Brussels sprouts, and I think if you were trying to assess masculinity, Brussels sprouts for the table versus cucumber wedged ice water at a Super Bowl party, I just think that I'm the more masculine choice here.
Well, if I have to be honest, I didn't advertise it was ice water because I had one of those big, I forget what brand it was, one of the big insulated mugs with the lid on it. So if you looked and I walked in with it, you probably
you're like
thought,
a
wow,
chick. You're just carrying around your own water now. This is what chicks do. In your Stanley cup.
No, I like the water to stay cold. I have an ice machine. I don't like to rub my wealth in anyone's face, but I have an ice machine. It makes endless amounts of ice. And so I spend my days drinking icy cold water as if I'm on an Arctic expedition.
Tell us about, I'm going to save you here, Jesse. I'm going to pull you out of the Arctic icy waters here for a second, like a polar bear grabbing a seal. tell me, the Little Red Book. This is available at jessekelly.com right now. What is this?
Okay, first of all, it's free. I need to stress this. It's free. It's not a gimmick or a scam. I wrote the Anti-Communist Manifesto. What was that? A couple years ago. I'm not an author. I don't ever want to write another book again. And I didn't want to write another book, but I had some extra thoughts. Like I wanted to put an extra chapter in it, basically. But then as I was sitting down and I was hashing it out, it turned into, I think it's 93 pages, which is more than an extra chapter. And I thought, well, how do I even get this to people? I don't want to put it in hardback. Why don't I just email it to everybody? So we came up with the idea, let's just write it. It's a little booklet on, my thoughts on the Democrats, Republicans, culture. I even have food thoughts in there, whatever, just a little booklet. That's obviously a riff on Mao's Little Red Book, which he used to slaughter all kinds of people in China. No one will be slaughtered after my Little Red Book. It's just little food for thought items about where we're at as a country, and it's free. We just put in your email address at jessekelly.com, and we email it to you. That's what it is.
It's a pretty cool idea. So I would encourage people to potentially check this out if you're into gay authors, which it's an important moment to honor you. I know it's Black History Month, but Gay Author Month is coming up soon, I'm sure, and it's an esteemed accomplishment. All right, I'm gonna. So this is all like prelude to you can choose to join me in right now. People are coming after me like crazy, or you can say, you know what, Clay, that's you on an island, and it's an interesting island because I watched yesterday Pam Bondi testify on Capitol Hill, and she was interrupted by so-called, and I say use the phrase so-called because these women are saying, hey, we were abused by people other than Jeffrey Epstein. And they continue to have all these press conferences and they keep showing up, and they were in the press conference and they're in the back of at the hearing, they're in the back of it. They're chanting, they're drawing attention to themselves. What am I missing here? If you are a victim, if somebody assaulted you and yet that person is still alive, and maybe they're still out there assaulting other people, don't you have an actual obligation if you are doing all these press conferences to actually make the public allegation, file lawsuits, get investigations to occur? What am I missing here? At some point when you're showing up for all these press conferences saying, I'm a victim, I'm a survivor, Epstein is dead, Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison, they're saying there's other people that abuse them, don't they have an obligation morally to actually tell us who these people are? I'm fired up about it.
I don't disagree. But I think this Epstein stuff, it's very similar to like what the Me Too movement was. Like that started out and it was a really good thing because women who had been abused by men felt comfortable coming forward and finally voicing it. And then it took like 5 minutes for it to turn really scummy and scammy, and very clearly it was a money grab. And he took me out on a bad date and he ordered Brussels sprouts, and now I'm mad at him, that kind of a thing. And so I think the exact same thing is taking place with Epstein, who was clearly a creep and a monster, was surrounded by creeps and monstered, did all kinds of creepy, monstrous things, and I hope every one of them gets thrown into prison. However, as soon as people start getting paid on this stuff, start getting famous on this stuff, that is inevitably going to invite scammers and scummy people who love to give press conferences every other day and have their name in 60 Minutes. But at some point, if you're gonna come out publicly and say I was abused, you have to deliver the goods. I don't necessarily think you're crazy. Now, if you want to stay quiet, I get that. I know a bunch of women who have sadly gone through this kind of thing, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't feel comfortable talking about it, and that's not my place to tell anyone to talk about it. But if you're on your 20th press conference talking about the powerful men who've abused you, and it's the 20th time you haven't named a single name, I'm sorry. I need to hear some names now. I want to hear some names. I want to know which of the powerful people in our society are freaking monstrous predators preying on women. And you've teased me to this point in time. Now you got to deliver.
It's more if they truly are out there and they did it to you, they're likely doing it to other people. So to me, the moral obligation, people say, oh, there's an NDA. They got paid $100 million. They can't talk. This is BS. Like the Epstein estate is not suing you. I've been through some of these cases before. with representing women and representing people in situations like these. I'm fired up about it. Okay, where are we, Jesse? Year 2, as we are now, you got a primary. You live in Texas. You got a primary in 2.5 weeks, whatever it's going to be. What do you expect in 26?
I expect that we will lose the House of Representatives and keep the Senate. I think that's a reasonable expectation. How bad that loss is remains to be seen. If we fight tooth and nail, we might lose it by a little. If this economy does not come back for most people, then we're probably going to lose it by a lot, and Trump's going to be impeached every other day in the House, and it's going to be a miserable last 2 years of his presidency. I think it's all going to depend on the economy. Us political people, everyone listening right now, we know all the ins and outs, we know all the issues, but the normies who decide elections don't vote on that. They vote on, can they afford chicken? Can they afford a plane ticket to go see their mother? Is the economy back for them? Selling them on another big trade deal does not do anything for the normies out there. They have to feel it in their pocketbook. Are they feeling it? I don't know. They better be feeling it by election time or we're in trouble.
Jesse, putting you back on the hot seat here for a second, what would you say to a full-grown man with a mustache who lives in the Nashville area who makes the claim that Taylor Swift is on her way to being the 21st century version of the Beatles?
Man, that is just so sad. If I had a moment, Buck, if I could talk to that guy, if I had a chance to talk to that guy, I'd really want to. I'd almost want to figure out: is he hurt? Is there something wrong inside? Is there something going on in his life that we need to find out about? Can we get him help? I have a heart for people, Buck. If I met somebody that broken and wrong, I would want to find out: is it rehab? Look, I'll pitch in some money, Buck. I know you will too. Clay, you probably would too if you met anybody that unbelievably deranged.
She is an absolute icon, and long after the three of us are gone, her music is going to echo throughout the world, bringing everyone together.
Go to jessekelly.com.
I was just called gay for drinking ice water?
At a Super Bowl party. You didn't drink ice water after you ran a half marathon. You drank ice water at a Super Bowl party, while I might mention hanging out with guys and pounding meats on the patio, I think, in your phrasing. He's going to be voting for Mayor Pete in every election for the rest of his life. He's Jesse Kelly. Make sure that you go subscribe to his podcast, check out his new book, and you can listen to him on many of these same stations in the evenings. Jesse, thank you.
See you, boys.
Through the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, you can honor the courage and sacrifice of our nation's greatest heroes, first responders and military heroes like United States Army Lieutenant Colonel Christy Rabitz. Christy served our country with unwavering dedication for 20 years. As a combat nurse, she provided life-saving care to wounded soldiers, including at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center during the height of the global war on terror. Christy was also a devoted wife, mother, and mentor whose life was rooted in compassion and integrity. After 6 years of courageously battling service-related cancer, Christy's life was tragically cut short. She leaves behind her husband, Stephen, and their 2 kids. Tunnel to Towers honored Christy's service and sacrifice by paying off the mortgage on her family's home. Help more families like Christy's. Join us in donating $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.